So good morning everybody, and thanks to Michael Gerhards and the whole Creative Mornings Cologne team for organizing this great event and also for inviting me. And today I will give a very short talk with the title, "The proof is in the pudding." It comes from the sentence of the saying, the proof of the pudding is in eating it. So it's like in Germany would say, probieren geht über studieren. And when Michael invited me some weeks ago to talk here, I said, yes, of course, great. But during my preparations, I also realized that the topic is failure. So now with this event, my name is also connected with failure. For example, if you Google it, or maybe if you write something on Twitter. So anyway, that's why I try to tell you today why failure is not bad. So. Because I think in our society, failure still has a bad connotation. So it's in daily business, it's expected that you don't fail. Especially, I think, in Germany, it's expected to make no mistakes, to work very accurate, and to deliver a perfect product. Maybe you remember the so-called ELK test in the 90s of the Mercedes R-Class. And I'm pretty sure that Mercedes-Benz wasn't really happy about an image like that. But I think for my work, these are the moments when things start to get interesting, because here is something unexpected happening. And because I think failure should no longer be seen as something bad. I think we learn more from failure than from success. So. I think it's a requirement to learn. You have to fail to learn, and it's also essential to produce unexpected results. Or as Thomas Edison said, I have not failed, I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work. I think some of you already know this quote. I also read a quite interesting article about James Dyson. He's the inventor of a very famous vacuum cleaner. I think you know that vacuum cleaner. And he built a lot of prototypes before he came to the final solution. And he says by 3727, that was the number of the prototypes, my wife was giving art lessons for some extra cash. These were tough times, but each failure brought me closer to solving the problem. And in the end, he needed around 5,000 prototypes. So it's like 5,000 times of failing, but each failure brought him nearer to the final solution. And it's also a question of how to get from A to B, if you look at this image, from the foot of the mountain to the summit of the mountain. So here we see an example, the Eiger North Face, Eiger Nordwand. You maybe know that mountain. So it's before it was successfully climbed, most of the attempts to try to get to the summit, they ended in a tragedy. So it is a very difficult mountain to climb, especially the North Face. And the direct route, which I draw here, it's called Direttissima, but of course there are an endless number of possible routes to the mountain. Most of the time the Direttissima is not the best one. So the North Face was first successfully climbed in 1938, and there is also a very interesting book called The White Spider, Die weiße Spinne, by Heinrich Harrer. He was in the team. He was in the team who climbed the North Face for the first time, and this book is about the exhibition. There is a very difficult traverse to climb in the route. It's called Hinterstoiser Traverse. Maybe some of you know that, the story behind it. It's 2 years before the mountain was climbed successfully, another team, including, I have to look, Andreas Hinterstoiser, they climbed this traverse successfully for the first time. And the thing is, you have to leave the rope there. There is also a movie about this event, because they tried to get to the summit and they don't keep the rope there. So when they came back, they didn't reach the summit. When they came back, there was no rope, and from the other side, it's almost impossible to get back. And in the end, all of them also died. So it was really a tragedy. But just because of this failure, the team 2 years later, they know that they had to keep the rope there, and therefore it was possible for them to climb, to get back from the mountain. So without the knowledge of this failure, they wouldn't have been the mountain would not have been climbed successfully. So, okay, in the mountain we know B, but what is if we don't know B? I think we can start here by doing experiments. So, in the original sense, it means the execution of an action in multiple repetitions to achieve experientia. But I think we also have to distinguish between experiments in science and experiments in design. So in science, it's about having control over the experiment. It's also about that you very precisely formulate your question, and it's also about that the result is reproducible. When the result is not reproducible, it's not true. And I think, of course, it's similar to the design process, but I think in the design experiment, we should also act based on our intuition. And in science, everything is very well planned. So actually, it's not about to get unexpected results. But I think in the design experiment, it's the unexpected results which keeps us working further. So out of the experiment, the best ideas might be generated. And anyway, I think in the beginning you should precisely formulate your questions, or at least where is my starting point. So I have been always very fascinated in using the computer and writing code as a tool for the design process, because especially years ago, it really helped me to formulate my ideas, because this machine is quite stupid. I have to tell the machine what I want to do, but writing code doesn't mean that you already know the result. So there is a book by Joseph Weizenbaum, Computer Power and Human Reason, and he says, one programs just as one writes, not because one understands, but in order to come to understand. Programming is an act of design. To write a program is to legislate the law for a world one first has to create in imagination. So it's by writing code, I get to an idea, to an understanding. And the good thing is, when I'm doing this kind of stuff, this kind of creative coding, it's up to me, up to my imagination what I want to do, because the world inside the machine has nothing to do with the world here. So I'm completely free there. And the good thing is also I'm not a software engineer, so I'm always making mistakes, and these are the best moments. Then the good things are happening. But I'm also very interested to mix this kind of digital world with the analog world, because especially when you come back to the physical, to the analog world, and you work with real material, there are also the moments where unexpected things are happening. So for me, a very good inspiration is still the kinetic art. Here in the kinetic art, it's about how these elements are connected to each other in a mechanical way, and And the mechanics and the physical structure defines the motion behavior or the behavior of the system. And in the past, as I said, writing digital code, I always make mistakes. And this is a quite old project. It's Connect. It's 5 years old now. Here the same thing happened, but it doesn't happen on the digital side. It happened when I was working with the mechanics of a kinetic sculpture. So in the beginning, I was very interested in creating kind of kinetic structures to play around with how things move, how things behave to each other. And to speed up the process, I was using, for example, bars or ropes with a magnet on each side. So that way I was able to reconfigure the structure very quickly. And all of a sudden, at one test run, the one magnet broke, and then the bar was swinging like an acrobat and connecting to another element. And actually this misbehavior, it was never planned. This was actually then the starting point for the final result. So it's this white bar. I hope you can see it. So it's swinging in a very chaotic, random pattern. It's not predictable. And all of a sudden, it's possible to connect to another element because the bar has a magnet on each side. And at the moment the bar is connecting to another sphere, these two elements start to talk to each other. And it's not because they have a digital connection, it's because of the physical connection built. So each of these elements actually has a very simple logic on a small microcontroller inside. And they are producing quite complex behavior, and it's unpredictable. You don't know what will happen next. So I think after some exhibitions of this project, I also realized that you have certain expectations when you're watching this artwork. I think also because of the name Connect. So you are expecting that it's connecting, but actually sometimes it really takes a while. It took 10 minutes to connect, but people keep staying there and want to see the thing connecting. And so the system acts in its own time and manner, and sometimes, yeah, it's producing completely random behavior. So sometimes the bar is falling down, or sometimes it's connecting to different elements. And actually, what was very interesting for me during the development process, normally I'm kind of a control freak. I try to keep control till the end. And here, I was losing control. There was a certain moment where it was clear I'm still the observer of the system. I cannot control it. I can change some parameters, but it's producing always another kind of behavior. So, I think it's not, you cannot see it here, but even Princess Letizia, or now Queen Letizia of Spain, she was quite fascinated by the project. And actually an image like that also helped me for my parents. They were proud because it's not that easy when you do things like that. I mean, the project took me like 1 year, 1.5 years to produce, and people are asking you, what are you doing? And you're telling them, I have this sphere swinging, and then there is a bar, and they say, hey, what are you doing? And actually, a thing like that, I did it for myself, but this project I was quite lucky with because it was awarded several times. I also got money for that, and it helped me to keep going with things like that beside my commercial project. So today I'm not showing so many of these commercial things, but for me it was always important to keep space, trying things out beside the client work, commercial work. And as Michael said, since almost, I think, 1.5 years, I'm now a professor for interaction and interface design at the Köln International School of Design, or KISTI, as we said. And we love to do experiments at KIST. So we see the experiment as an important tool also in the design process. And I think it's also important to understand, most of the people think when we speak about experiments in the design, they think it's just something playful. But I think we should see it as something beyond playful. It's kind of an iterative process to come to possible results. So last semester I gave a seminar, and it also ended in an exhibition with the title Material as Actor, together with my colleague Professor Dr. Caroline Höfler. And it was about material experiments. So each student was asked to choose one material and to do a research on the material. What is the behavior of the material? What is the inner structure? How can we trigger this behavior? And also to come to unexpected results. Today I don't have so much time, so I cannot show you all of the results because I think all of them are really great. For example, here is a project called Second Skin by Marian Müsch and Alexander Wernery, and what they did, they were using a living and bio-based material out of the kombucha mushroom. Maybe you know the kombucha mushroom. You can also drink it. And in the web you can also find instructions how to breed a mushroom like this on your own. So they start to breeding it like in a lab, and it's producing kind of a very thin layer. And this thin layer, when you dry it in the fresh air, it's becoming kind of it's like a textile-like material. The interesting thing here is, in the beginning it took weeks to grow. It was very slowly growing, but you can also use other things to color it, to ink it. And in one experiment, they used beetroot juice. It's rote Betesaft. So they put the rote Betesaft inside here, and then the mushrooms start to grow like hell. And we don't know why. So I asked them, what is happening there? And they tried to explain me. I'm still not really sure what is happening there, but at least they convinced me that there is no toxic process happening. And I'm still healthy, so I think it's okay. For us, it was also important that we didn't expect the students to come up with applied products. But of course, out of experiments like this, applied products can be the next step. For example, think about organic textiles for clothes. So it's like a second skin. You can use it also as a textile, and it's completely organic. Okay, another project I wanted to show you today, it's called Binary Talk by Niklas Iselburg and Jakob Kilian. And their material was air. And they wanted to visualize motion in the air. And one way to do this is by using fog or smoke. So again, they started with first experiments, and during a prototyping process, they also recognized that you can use a audio speaker and a low frequency kind of click sound, and together with a smoking machine, you're able to shoot kind of vortex formed rings through the air. So in the next step, they were also thinking about what to do with this mechanism. And you maybe know these pictures when you're watching an old Western movie of having smoke signs to communicate. And they were thinking about that to use it. So if you look at a letter like H, it's possible to translate it in a binary code, which means in the end it's just on-off. It's just a code of on-off, or smoking rings or no smoking rings. I will show you a movie. I think then you will get a better idea. it's also like a statement about how, because today when I write a short message, I don't see what is happening in between. And I'm also showing this project today because till the end they were struggling with the system. So sometimes it happened that the message didn't arrive correctly. But I think that's part of the topic, because if you have some digital data and materialize it again, like into moving rings of smoke, you have this noise from the analog world, like fluctuations in the air and so on. So, and I think there is also beauty in the error. Maybe some of you during the FIFA World Cup this summer, you have had a similar experience with the DVB-T receiver, DVB-T receiver. If the signal is very poor, you get these errors, these digital glitches, I would call it. So, with our studio interaction, Universal Interaction, we were invited some months ago to exhibit to be part of the exhibition Analog Mensch Digital, which is organized by Shutterstock. And they invited 10 design studios in Germany for the exhibition to produce at least 3 posters, but also to produce something for their exhibition. And when you log into Shutterstock, I mean, they have a great archive of stock image, and when you, for example, search for face, you get images like this. So most of the time beautiful people, very glossy, and it's these kind of images which you might use for advertisement. And we were we saw, okay, that's the material we want to work with, but we want to use it in a different way. So a good thing is in Shutterstock they also have this portrait series where you have one person and you have different face expressions. And we come up with the idea to create and develop a custom-made software where it's possible to slice all these images and reconfigure them to a new composition, to the final poster. So, yeah, we wrote our own software based on processing. Maybe some of you know that software. And it's possible to load the image set into the software, and then you have some major or main parameters of the software where you're able to change the number of slices, where you're able to change some parameters like rotation, position in 2D, 3D space. And yeah, it's amazing what you can do with this software. And it's also, we have the approach, if there is no tool which is able to do what we want to do, we develop the tool on our own. But even if we develop it on our own, we are 5 persons in the studio. Everyone is using the tool completely differently. So it's everyone, even if you have the same set of data, it's producing other results depending on who is controlling the software. So you start at EA, but in the end you have endless number of variations. These are just 9 possible variations. And I think in the end we had around 200, but it's no problem to produce thousands. You can do it very quickly. So for the exhibition, which will open next week, Friday, in Berlin at the Direktorenhaus, we are also planning, there is a kind of further development of this poster generator, and we will show an interactive piece there, but we will show it off space. It's not in the exhibition space. We will use kind of a modified analog mirror in the bathroom. And you will not see first that it is a mirror with some screen inside. So, but I don't want to tell you too much about it because it's still a secret and we're still working on it every day and night. So I'm also a little bit tired right now, but I think it will be working in the end, everything. So now I come to the end. So failure. As I said, I think failure and error is not something bad. We should, I think we can learn more from failure than from success. And it's a requirement to learn. And it's also, I think it's essential to come to unexpected results. And also here, I think most of you are working in companies and doing a lot of commercial projects, but I think try to keep space also to do these experiments. And I know it, and we can also talk about it later. It's very hard to convince someone to keep you this space, because most of the time the people want to know in the beginning what will be the result in the end. It's not so easy. And I think it's one way to do it is also to start prototyping very early. I think through the prototyping, it's for me it's a process of action and reflection, a process of making and thinking, because I also know it from the university where I'm teaching. Most of the time we are thinking too much and not making stuff. And sometimes a project can also start in the lab. Why not? It's important to think about it, to talk about it, to have a concept, but I think it's not the right way to have a wall just full of post-its, and 3 days before the project has to be finished, you will start doing it the way you might think it should be done. I think start earlier with prototyping and trying things out. So my advice is, I think, let failures and unexpected things happen. So, thank you.